Welcome, everyone. I now call the February 3rd, 2026 Council meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. At this point, we'll take a moment to take a roll call of the council members by position number. Please say here when the city clerk calls your name.
Thank you. Councilmember Onguluri.
Here.
Mayor Thompson.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Alderks.
Here.
Councilmember Kerr.
Here.
Councilmember Miles. Councilmember Dodd.
Here.
Councilmember Alcabra.
Here.
All present with the exception of Councilmember Miles, who is absent and excused.
Thank you. First up on our agenda is meeting agenda approval. Are there any changes to tonight's agenda? Seeing none, we're going to move on to public engagement opportunities. You can join a city board or commission. Applications are now open for City of Bothell boards and commissions. Make a difference in your community and bring your perspective to local issues. No prior experience needed. Applications are due by 4 p.m. on February 20th. You can also celebrate Lunar New Year with us, which I know Councilmember Alcabra is very excited about and something he's wanted to do for a very long time. Sorry for the editorializing there. You can join the Bothell Library and the City of Bothell to celebrate Lunar New Year. All are welcome to enjoy MacFi Lion Dance, Chinese story time, and more. That's Saturday, February 14th from 2 to 4 p.m. at the Bothell Library. Wayne Open Space Survey. The Wayne Open Space Action Plan Survey is now open to help shape the future design and vision for this important community space. Take about 10 minutes to share what you'd like to see for the future of the Wayne Open Space, especially if you would like to see mountain bike trails there. The survey is open through February 15th. We're only 3 minutes in and I already got one snort from Amanda, so it's been a good day so far. Next up is a proclamation for Black History Month. Whereas Black History Month is an annual celebration of the achievements of Black and African Americans and the inextricable role that they play in United States history, and whereas Black History Month was officially recognized by President Gerald Ford in 1976 after more than 60 years of research and advocacy by historian Carter G. Woodson and Minister Jesse E. Moreland, who founded the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. And whereas the omission of history and contributions of Black and African Americans from textbooks and other literature has contributed to pervasive systemic racism in the United States, such that it is essential to honor the extraordinary contributions made by Black Americans throughout history. And whereas we celebrate the legacy of Black Americans whose power to lead, to overcome, and to expand the meaning and practice of American democracy has helped our nation become a more fair and just society. And whereas it is a moral imperative that we learn about, shed light upon, and condemn the inhumanity and inequities that Black and African Americans continue to experience and endure, while celebrating the countless achievements and contributions of Black organizers, scholars, artists, and community members. Now, therefore, I, Mason Thompson, Mayor of the City of Bothell, do hereby proclaim February 2026 as Black History Month and reaffirm the City's of Bothell's commitment to fighting anti-Black discrimination through its values, policies, and practices. And I believe we have some members of the community here to accept. Say a few words.
You know, from experience speaking in front of groups, which I don't do very often, I've learned to have a clipboard so you can't see my hand shaking. All righty, so first of all, giving honor to God, to our mayor, to the deputy mayor, to city council members, and our distinguished guest. My name is Admiral Flunder, my wife Toya. We have been here, lived in Bothell since 1990. And if you knew how old I was, you know that would be exactly, we've lived here exactly half of our lives. So I want to talk about Black History Month as an annual celebration of achievements by African Americans and a time for recognizing our central role in the history of the United States, also known as African American History Month. This observance grew out of Negro History Week, the idea of Harvard-trained historian Carter G. Woodson and other leaders who sought to ensure that the full record of our nation's past was researched, taught, and remembered. The story begins in 1950, half a century after the 13th Amendment abolished slavery. In September of that year, Carter G. Woodson and Minister Jesse E. Moreland founded the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History, an organization dedicated to researching and promoting achievements by Black Americans and people of African descent worldwide. In 1926, 100 years ago, the association sponsored the first National Negro History Week, deliberately timed in the second week of February to coincide with the birthdays of Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass. The week inspired schools and communities across the country to hold performances, lectures, and history clubs that celebrated Black history and lifted up Black voices. In the decades that followed, mayors and local leaders began issuing yearly proclamations recognizing Negro History Week. By the late 1960s, amid the civil rights movement and a deeper national reckoning with history, Negro History Week expanded into Black History Month. And in 1976, President Gerald Ford asked Americans to seize the opportunity to honor the too often neglected accomplishments of Black Americans, and each year since, presidents have formally recognized February as Black History Month. Other nations, including Canada and the United Kingdom, have since created their own months of remembrance. Black history is a story of courage and creativity, of struggle and triumph. From activists and civil rights pioneers like Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, Marcus Garvey, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and Rosa Parks, to leaders in industry, politics, science, and the arts. Black Americans have shaped every chapter of our national life. It is worth remembering, for example, that Hiram R. Revels of Mississippi became the first Black United States Senator during Reconstruction, serving from 1870 to 1871. And this is a powerful reminder of both the promises and the perils of our democratic experiment. Black History Month 2026, a century of Black history commemorations. The national theme for 2026, a century of Black history commemorations, asks us to reflect on 100 years of public remembrance. It invites us not only to study the events of the past, but to think about how we remember them, the ceremonies, the classrooms, the monuments, and the books, and how those rituals of memory have shaped culture, identity, and our collective understanding of Black life in America. Commemoration is not a passive act. The ways we choose to remember affect which stories are amplified and which are left out. Over a century, Black History Month has helped correct omissions in the historical record, expanding curricula, influencing public policy debates, and creating space for artists, educators, and community leaders to tell fuller, truer stories about our shared past. The rituals of remembrance, the lectures, the parades, the classroom lessons, the family conversations have helped communities build identity and resilience and have shaped how generations of Americans understand freedom, citizenship, and justice. And here in Bothell, that theme asks a local question. How do commemorations strengthen community and civic life? We can honor the century of remembrance by making history visible in our libraries and schools, by supporting events that celebrate Black culture and achievement, and by promoting inclusion in our civic institutions. We can lift up local Black leaders, entrepreneurs, artists, educators, veterans, and neighbors, and ensure their stories are part of our public story. We can partner with community organizations to expand programming, sponsor lectures and exhibits, and encourage our schools to integrate Black history across the curriculum, not only during February, but throughout the year. Commemoration also carries responsibility. Remembering must lead to action. Let us use this month to listen, to learn, and to strengthen policies that ensure equity in education, housing, economic opportunity, and public safety. Let us support Black-owned businesses, volunteer for community programs, and invite young people to study the full range of our shared past so that they grow up with a broader sense of possibility and belonging. In closing, Black History Month reminds us that history is not fixed on a page. It is lived in our neighborhoods, taught in our schools, and renewed by our choices. As we mark a century of public commemoration, let us honor the achievements of the past by recommitting ourselves to a future of greater understanding, inclusion, and justice for all of us who call Bothell home. Thank you. And now I respectively ask the council to join me in recognizing Black History Month 2026 and encouraging our community to reflect, remember, and act. Thank you.
Would you guys like a picture? I know you would like a picture, so let's do a picture.
Anybody who wants to join the picture, if you want to come right up here.
All right, next up is public comment. The city has accepted public comment in writing as well as accepted signups for those who wish to speak at tonight's meeting. Written comments submitted to the city clerk no later than 3 p.m. today were forwarded to all city council members and are part of the record. When the clerk calls your name, you will have 3 minutes to speak. Please note that council will receive your input, but we do not engage in discussion of these topics. Staff will make note of items requiring follow-up. City clerk?
Thank you, Mayor Thompson. We have received written comment from 16 people regarding infill development on 88th Avenue Northeast. Those have all been made part of the record, and you should have all received a copy of that. And then we have 2 people that are signed up to speak. The first one is David Levitin, and I believe he is virtual, so I'm going to panel him in. Hi, David, can you hear me?
Hi, yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead. You'll have 3 minutes.
Great, thank you. Thank you, members of the City Council and City staff. My name is David Levitan, and I'm a resident of Bothell. Over the last month, I have watched the images and videos from the Minneapolis area. But as concerning as the news is from Minneapolis, all too quickly I ask myself, what happens if a federal surge comes to the Seattle area? What will King County and the city of Bothell do if faced with protests and confrontations, similar to what we have seen in Minneapolis. Over the last year, the city of Bothell has taken important steps, like passing the immigration support resolution, as well as posting an FAQ about immigration and enforcement. I have likewise been impressed with the Bothell Police Department's handling of local protests, where I've seen police maintain a constant but low-key presence. However, given the violent encounters we've seen in Minneapolis and Portland, these provide insufficient information. Hence, I have several questions for the council, staff, and police department. First, what support will the city and county provide to legal residents and U.S. citizens who are arrested during immigration raids? Second, how will the police interact with both protesters and federal agents in the event of protests and confrontations? Will they protect the citizens of Bothell? And lastly, if protests do turn violent and any potential crimes are committed, how will the police department secure evidence and crime scenes such that independent investigations can be held? We have seen the lack of cooperation with federal agencies in Minneapolis and the difficulty in securing crime scenes during protests. I do not expect the council or staff to have the answers to these questions now, and I do not expect that these answers are ones you can decide on your own. I do hope, however, that Bothell and other local cities are working with the county and state governments to identify contingency plans. It is my hope that the answers to these questions will never actually be needed, but I do believe it is better to be prepared. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Sarah Gustafson, who is also virtual. Sarah, can you hear me?
I can.
Go ahead. You'll have
Can
3
you
minutes.
see me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Great. Thank you so much. Hi, I'm Sarah Gustafson, resident of Bothell. I'm here to thank our city, our neighbors, and our local police for supporting immigrants and the rule of law, and to ask, what are the next steps here if ICE activity increases in our community? This Sunday, in the Seattle Times, I saw a Doonesbury cartoon, that describes the mood of so many of us who are watching the protests in Minneapolis. Anger, uncertainty, and the desire to help, somehow. In the comic strip, a character is going about her life when she hears someone say that ICE is looking for her. The character responds that she's a U.S. citizen, been here for decades. But her friends yell that there's an unmarked vehicle outside, and they circle up to protect her against ICE, all shouting and blowing their whistles. Frankly, in the comic, they look silly. It's a comic case of overreaction. Or is it? Because in the very next panel, an ICE agent shows up for our main character. Our city is already helping in concrete ways by stating clearly its support of immigrants, huge community backing, working with nonprofits to educate people on their rights. My understanding is that our police have a strong no cooperation policy with federal immigration enforcement. My first question, though, is on schools and public locations. Local community colleges are putting together plans for lockdowns if ICE goes on campus. If our colleges close their door to ICE and insist on judicial warrants for entry, what is our police's role? Will they verify the agent's legal authority before letting them enter any buildings? In the event of a raid on a public location, like Home Depot or Fred Meyer, will the police focus on community safety? My guess is that they will. These questions need to be asked. There are questions on protest response. If our community blocks an ICE vehicle, is there a use of force policy? Will the police prioritize de-escalation over clearing a path for federal agents? And if ICE calls for assistance because they feel threatened by protesters, how will our local law enforcement respond? Will they protect everyone from violence? Will they record what's going on? I know that Bothell, our wonderful law enforcement, and our great community are already discussing these questions. And with this discussion, Bothell can confront the absurdity seen in this construct and meaningfully defend our community. Thank you to everyone.
Thank you. Next, we have Justin Buffard, who's also virtual, so I'll panel him in. Justin, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm just setting something up here. All right. Good evening, Council. No video's off. Justin Buffard again. I come here seeking clarity so I can market this lot with legal certainty. You have been told because I have one EDU in middle housing, state law doesn't apply to me, that I cannot have a second EDU and then I must pay for frontage. I'm here to show you, using your own code and the plain text of state law, why that is legally impossible. Please take a look at the screen. This is HB 1337. The left text is the mandate. It says cities must allow at least 2 ADUs on all lots in any zone that allows for single-family homes, not lots exclusively containing one single-family home, all lots. Now look at the right. The law explicitly defines an ADU as a unit on a lot with a duplex or even other housing unit. The legislator could not have been clearer. If the zone allows a single-family home and is in a UGA, the 2 ADU right is automatic. The zone dictates the right, not the existing building. So the only question I have to ask tonight is, does my zone allow single-family homes and is it in the UGA? Yes. Look to the left. Deputy Mayor Aldrich correctly confirmed in a public comment that detached single-family homes can be built in all residential zones. She was absolutely right. Now look to the center. This is your own zoning table. Look at the red box under RM2. Single-family homes are permitted, as are ADUs and even middle housing, which the Deputy Director incorrectly said was not applicable. Finally, look at the 3 points below. The configuration does not matter. The zone triggers the right. And Commerce might claim that you can restrict ADUs to protect density, but that shield only applies in low-density zones. My zone is in RM2, a medium-density zone. You have no shield here. The conclusion of the red banner at the bottom is that state law mandates 2 ADUs. My 4-unit plan is legal today. I want to finish on a personal note. I'm not the bad guy here. As Deputy Mayor Aldrich noted in the past on screen, my work on housing speaks to my integrity and my intent to help the community. I want to be that ally again in your eyes. I have helped a homeless veteran and young couples start a life right here in Bothell, doing exactly what the mayor wanted with ADUs. I'm offering you a win tonight. You can acknowledge the law and I will move forward with the 4-unit plan. Or in response to Representative Kloba, I can offer a right-of-way dedication in exchange for another small, accessible unit to help a senior age in place. A win-win. Please make the fiscally responsible choice. Trust the integrity you know I have. Follow the law, and let's end this dispute. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all I have signed up to speak tonight. However, if there's anyone in the audience that wishes to speak, please step to the podium, state your name, and you'll have 3 minutes. And then once we're done with the audience here in the chambers, I will call on anybody online. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, my name's Bob Simon. I'm a rather new resident to Bothell of only a couple of years, and I want to begin by thanking you, Jen, for your newsletters. I find them really informative. I'm just inquiring, because tonight there's discussion about the Brickyard work and a transit center, that I live on East Riverside Drive, and about a half a mile or so before this construction and transit center and a few blocks after, on the way into Woodinville, there's quite a bit of foot traffic and bicycle traffic, and as you may or may not know, there's no room other than for the 2-lane cars moving at a pretty good clip. So I'm hoping that the council will delegate to whomever or to themselves ever more consideration for what's going on there as this construction comes to completion and this transit center will come to be operational. I did inquire with the King County and with Department of Transportation, and they have inferred or given me the impression that it is the responsibility of our city of Bothell. And other than that, I just want to thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience here that wishes to speak? Okay, I'm not seeing anybody. Is there anyone online that wishes to speak? If so, please raise your hand. Use the raise hand function, I will panel you in. That's all I have, Mayor Thompson.
Thank you. All right, next up is our city manager report. City manager.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just about to say that I was going to make sure that we got a follow-up with the resident with questions about Brickyard, but thank you to our Deputy Director from Public Works for figuring that out.
And he's out of the room now, but for those watching, that is the #1 priority on our bike plan, to get a protected bike lane so people can walk or ride there. So we know.
Absolutely. So tonight, we actually have two outside presentations for you. And so our deputy clerk will help pull those up. What I also wanted to just note for council clarification is that we will also resume the city manager report at the end of the agenda tonight. So you'll be getting your state legislative update at the end. That's what works well for our presenters. So stay tuned for part B of the city manager report. But for tonight, we do have two outside presentations. They are connected and separate all at the same time. And so what we have for you tonight first is a 10-minute presentation from Sound Transit. As council knows, there's a number of things happening related to Sound Transit in our region. And we're joined by Rick Kapka and Sarah Perenio, first from Sound Transit, and then we will follow that with an update from the Washington State Department of Transportation about some additional projects. With that, I'm going to turn things over to Rick, and welcome to Bothell City Hall, or welcome back.
Thank you, Kyle. Good evening, Mayor Thompson and council members. My name is Rick Kapka, Executive Project Director for Sound Transit on the Stride Bus Rapid Transit Program. Joining me this evening is my colleague, Sarah Perino, Senior Project Manager at Sound Transit, also on the Stride program. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present to you this evening. Okay, we're going to be efficient with our slides. We got a decent number of them, but we'll get through it in 10 minutes. Tonight, we're going to give you a few updates on the overall agency and the ongoings at Sound Transit, as well as the Stride program. So to situate everyone, Sound Transit provides regional high-capacity transit for communities in the Puget Sound region. Over the past 30 years, voters have approved 3 separate ballot measures. You can see them here on the slide. The Stride Bus Rapid Transit investment was included in the ST3 package that voters approved back in 2016. So this map shows the entire ST3 voter-approved transit system built out. The 3 gold lines on the map represent the 45 miles of Stride BRT investments along both I-405 and SR 522. In 2025, Sound Transit celebrated multiple milestones working towards this ultimate regional transit vision. Specifically for the BRT program, we broke ground on our bus operations and maintenance facility in Bothell with Mayor Thompson this past August. This facility will have a capacity of up to 120 buses and will be integral to delivering and operating our Stride service. Last year, Sound Transit also celebrated 2 light rail extensions. We opened both the downtown Redmond Link extension as well as the Federal Way Link extension. And on March 28th of this year, Sound Transit is going to open the Cross Lake connection. This connection will complete the regional transit system expansion approved by voters as part of the ST2 package back in 2008. It'll fully connect our communities on the west and east sides of Lake Washington. So let's talk about Stride for a few moments. So Stride will provide 3 brand new service lines along both I-405 and SR 522 with over 45 miles of fast, frequent, and reliable bus service. It will include light rail connections in Linwood, Shoreline, Bellevue, and Tukwila. Stride also includes Sound Transit's first bus operations and maintenance facility, as well as its first fully electric bus fleet, with buses running every 10 minutes during service. Stride stations will have a feel very similar to our light rail stations, with more robust amenities than the traditional bus stop. We've hired a specialty contractor to install all of our shelters and amenities at each of our 25 station locations. And for our fleet, you can see here on the slide, the articulated buses shown on the bottom right-hand side of the slide will be running along our SR 522 corridor. So we have 2 construction contracts that are just about ready to begin along SR 522. The first is a contract with Atkinson Construction, and they're going to be building a segment through Kenmore and Bothell, which is reflected in the green line shown here on the map. Through Kenmore, we'll be constructing a total of 6 station platforms along with what we call transit signal priority at key intersections. Through Bothell, we'll be constructing a total of 8 station platforms along with transit signal priority and a new center queue bypass lane for buses traveling east along SR 522 as we approach 98th. And the second construction contract about to begin will be our contract with Pavetta Brothers along Northeast 145th Street in Seattle and Shoreline. This contract will construct 4 new station platforms, install transit signal priority at our intersections, as well as queue bypass lanes at key intersections to allow our buses to move more efficiently through the intersections. We expect work to begin on both of these contracts later this month, and service along S3 will begin in 2028. As we begin construction, we are committed to working closely with the cities and the public to complete this work safely and efficiently. And now I'm going to hand it over to Sarah, who's going to briefly discuss some of our key work going on with WSDOT right now along 405.
Thanks, Rick. The STRIDE program represents a deep and ongoing era of partnership between Sound Transit and WSDOT, as well as with our region's cities to improve quality of life on the entire corridor between Linwood and Burien and Shoreline and Woodinville. Our partners at WSDOT are going to present next, so I'm going to leave most of the updates to them, but I do want to highlight 3 of our stations that they're building along I-405 in Bothell. First here we have Canyon Park. On the left it shows a current transit stop where buses have to exit the highway to pick up passengers. And on the right we have a rendering of our new Canyon Park BRT station where passengers will take pedestrian bridges to catch our BRT buses in the center of the highway here. This will really allow for faster and more reliable service. Next slide. Next here we have our Bothell Woodinville Transit Center. This will serve as the terminus of our S3 line, and it'll connect to S2 with seamless transfers. On the bottom right here, it shows a picture of construction of that transit center, which requires some reconfiguration of the I-405 flyover ramps, which WSDOT will get into a little later. And then next. This is just a rendering of our new Brickyard BRT station, and this will also be an inline station similar to Canyon Park, and on the right is a picture of construction getting underway there.
All right, and to wrap, just two plugs for upcoming events for Sound Transit. First, we have a groundbreaking ceremony we're actually conducting at the end of February 27th. It'll be in Kenmore, celebrating the start of construction along the S3 service line. And then we also are going to be celebrating the Cross Lake Connection at the end of March. March 28th is the opening day for that section of the light rail alignment. And happy to answer any questions at this point. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Curd.
Thanks so much for the presentation and for both of you for coming to speak with us. It's always good to hear updates about what's happening in Sound Transit world. I have a couple of quick questions. One is about signal prioritization. So the thing on everybody's mind in Bothell is that our interchange now has signals. Can you tell us a little bit more about what the signals are accomplishing and what the prioritization is meant to do?
Well, the concept behind transit signal priority is to give initial priority through intersections for our buses. So there will be a few second head start for the buses. I mean, you might see some of that similar activity in other intersections around some of the other cities. So that's the concept, is just to give the transit a head start as the lights change.
Great. So those signals will be permanent then, and it's meant to avoid collisions, or like what is the purpose? Just to speed up the route for buses, or?
Councilmember Kerr, just to clarify, are you talking about the signals that have been recently implemented
Yeah,
on the off-ramp
522.
on 522? That might be a WSDOT question. I think Rick is referring to to
Along
promote travel,
522.
but I think that might be next presentation.
Yeah, that's a question
Okay.
for WSDOT, yeah.
Great. I am curious about tap to pay. Can you speak a little bit more about how riders on Stride will be able to quickly pay?
Absolutely, yeah. So similar to if you're taking the light rail, we will have Orca card readers, so folks can easily tap on and just get right on the bus and move efficiently, and that's going to be the primary means of paying once you get on the buses.
Great. We're lucky because we have bus rapid transit from community transit as well. So happy that everything is meshing well together there, and there's no differences for commuters between payment types. But does Sound Transit have plans to incorporate phone payments or mobile wallet type improvements?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'll have to get back to you on that, unless, Sarah, you happen to know.
I don't either know.
All right, that's
It's a fair
fine.
question, though. We can get back
Good
to you.
question.
I'm excited about that. I've heard whispers, but I wanted confirmation. That's okay. I'm really excited, especially for the pedestrian crossings over the freeway. We don't have many, and so the few that are being constructed are really exciting. I know a lot of folks are especially excited about the Brickyard area and having more safer connections across the freeway there. And it's just really exciting also that we'll have shorter commute times down to Bellevue and to Linwood. So thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Councilmember Dodd?
Thank you. I will warn you, I have one obnoxious question for you guys and one for WSDOT. So mine for you is similar to what Councilmember Curd said. I just wanted to relate a quick story as far as like the dream. So I was in Portland recently. I went to go take a local bus. I downloaded an app. I put $5 on the pass and I paid with my phone, and it was magic. So I would have loved to have had that for the World Cup, but having gone to a couple of presentations for both King and Snohomish County, it doesn't sound like that's going to happen. But I hope we can just make it easy for whether it's commuters, whether it's community riders, whether it's tourists, just that, I mean, I cannot express how not painful that experience was compared to just any other thing I've ever downloaded on my phone. So that's my dream. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for the plug. We'll take it back.
You mentioned in your presentation that it would be 10-minute headways during service. When is service going to be?
So service on all three of our service lines will typically run 19 hours a day, except 17 hours a day on Sunday. So that would be the typical service duration each day.
So it'll be like 2 a.m. to 7 or midnight to 5 or something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm out of the time of my life where that matters to me. So, yeah, fair. All right. Thank you so much. We really appreciate the presentation. And I just want to echo what Councilmember Curd said about lots of people looking forward to the Brickyard, because I live close to there and I can't wait to be able to walk down and hop on a bus.
Thank you for the time.
Thank you.
All right, so our second presentation, and we've got a question in queue already for them too. We'll be hearing from Washington State Department of Transportation as well about their project. And I'll also note, our council members may have also seen, I read in the Seattle Times actually yesterday about a soft launch of the tap to pay system. So I do know they've rolled it out on some metro lines and are working hard on trying to get that up and running for the World Cup. So we'll see what happens. With that, we'll turn it over to our next presentation. Welcome.
Well, thank you. Good evening. Mayor, council member, thank you for inviting us here today to give you a brief overview of the latest progress on our project. I would like to begin thanking the City of Bothell for your continuous support. Your partnership has been critical to the progress that we made on this project. I will start by highlighting the key accomplishment for 2025, and then I will walk through some of the upcoming work and what the community and the traveling public could expect in the next few months. Before I dive into the construction update, I would like to provide a brief project overview. The project spans about 5 miles along I-405 corridor from south of the Brickyard all the way up to the I-405 State Route 527 interchange. The work including extending the express toll lane in both directions of the I-405, adding the direct access ramp at State Route 522 and State Route 527, and multimodal improvements, which consists of the 3 BRT stations with the pedestrian and bicycle connections. The project will also address the preservation and maintenance of the aging infrastructures, including the seismic resiliencies. Besides the transportation scope, we will also be addressing the fish passage barrier within our project limits. This is a general key milestone for our project. We are currently scheduled to reach substantial completion of this project by late 2028. In the next several slides, I will walk through the latest construction progress, starting from the southern end of the project all the way up to the most northern end of the project. This location is along I-405, just south of the Brickyard Park and Ride at the Juanita Creek Fish Passage, which north is showing on the top. We have been working in this area in doing ground prepping, clearing, grubbing, and getting ready to construct the Juanita Fish Passage Creek that will happen spring of this year. Now we're traveling up to the north at the I-405 Northeast 160th interchange by the Brickyard Park and Ride. The highlight of 2025, including installing the ITS equipment and drainage facility. Looking ahead, this location will include an elevated BRT station in the middle of a 405 with a pedestrian bridge connecting the east and the west side of the highway. We have also started working on the building construction on the west side of the highway. The photo on the right shows the closer look of the construction of the building foundation and the elevator pit on the west side of the BRT stations. And now we're at the I-405 State Route 522 interchange. The project has reached a major milestone last November. At the time, we completed the Park Creek Fish Passage construction under State Route 522 and implementing several changes in this intersection, including shifting the traffic onto the new I-405 northbound ramp bridge connection to eastbound and westbound of State Route 522. And we're also including traffic signals on select ramp in this location, which I will cover more detail on the later slide. And other major construction in this area, including the I-405 mainline bridge, which you can see in the middle on the left picture in the former loop ramp area. And on the right, you can see we were working on the rebar cage extending above the ground for the column for the bridge. As I mentioned earlier, we are adding two new signalized intersections at this interchange. The image on the left shows the new signal from southbound I-405 to eastbound 522, and the image on the right is showing the signal improvement on I-405 northbound to westbound State Route 522. You can also see traffic entering from northbound I-405 from eastbound 522 as well. This change are necessary to open space in the center of the interchange so we can continue construction of the I-405 mainline bridge and the direct access ramp for the express tolling system. Since the initial change, we have been monitoring the signalized intersection closely and making adjustment as we go. Recently, we added a lane on on the eastbound State Route 522 at the interchange of I-405 northbound to westbound State Route 522 to help improve the traffic flow. There will be one more signalized intersection at this interchange at the direct access and State Route 522 as the project progresses. Once complete, it will help provide more options for the driver to entering and exiting I-405 to further improve the overall traffic operation. The trail is also part of the interchange. We have post information out there on the trail so the trail user could anticipate upcoming activities. Trail users should anticipate brief daytime closure ranging approximately 15 to 45 minutes. Now we're at the most northern end of the project at I-405 and State Route 527 interchange adjacent to the Kenyon Park park and ride. Key accomplishment in 2025, including traffic shift towards the center of the I-405 to create more work zone on the side. We also start building the abutment wall for the future direct access ramp from 17th Avenue to I-405. And reconfiguring the future park and ride facility as well. The project also began construction of the North Fork Perry Fish Passage as well on the east side of the I-405. And due to the lane closure restriction, this work can only happen during nighttime. And we recognize the disruption and the inconvenience this caused the surrounding community last week. WSDOT and Skanska has been working closely together to improve the coordination and ensure timely and more consistent outreach to the community. Skanska Project Director Pat Prendergast is also in attendance today to answer any comments or questions that you might have. Now we want to transition to the upcoming work. As mentioned earlier, to continue the progress on I-405 and State Route 522 interchange, the project will need to demolish the former northbound I-405 flyover ramp to westbound and eastbound State Route 522, as you can see in the picture showing the orange area. Due to the complexity of the former structure, this work will require 4 consecutive weekend closures in February and March of this year, with 2 weekend closures on State Route 522, followed by 2 weekend closure on both northbound and southbound 405 closure. The work was originally scheduled to start this Friday, February the 6th, and has been postponed due to the complexity of the removal. The project team identified the need for more time to analyze and finish the plan. This closure will be impactful to the general public. We are working closely with the city to make sure we are communicating timely to the community and traveling public so people are aware this upcoming closure as we are finalizing the exact dates. Okay, I will take any questions that you might have.
Councilmember Dodd?
Thank you. Thank you for the updates. It's really appreciated. I have, I think, 2 questions so far. So the first, if you could walk us through, just because I know we all got a bunch of pretty concerning emails from our residents who are near the work at 527, 527-ish. If you can walk us through maybe what was done to notify those folks prior, and then what the new plan will be, just so we can understand what's changing.
Sure. Yes, I think we sent out a flyer a while back and perhaps didn't mention the work that's happening that needed to happen regarding the wall construction that is needed for the fish passage work. And I've been working closely with my counterpart, try to improve the communication from that perspective. So we have reached out to the neighbor yesterday to communicate and apologize. And then we are currently shifting work to daytime. And in the future, we will send out the notification in advance to the work. So.
Okay, I appreciate that. And then some folks, I think every public agency has sent notice that was maybe felt more relevant to the person reading it after something happened versus before. Were you able to find anybody that maybe didn't get a notice, or just have you widened the scope of who you're letting know based on the impact of the work that you heard?
Yeah, so some of the feedback we heard, apparently people are further out. They also can hear it as well. So we are trying to cast a wider net to the community so everybody is aware this work is coming in an approximate time frame.
Okay, I really appreciate that. Thank you. The other question I had, I think sounds a little more trivial, but is pretty impactful. So I've had letters from residents. I also live in this part of the city. Exit 26 is my on and off ramp when I travel on the interstate. And having gone through the different construction zones in Bothell versus even just like Totem Lake and Kenmore, not Kenmore, what am I talking about? Kirkland, different K-City. There are not only a lot of potholes in the on and off ramps by 527, but when one is reported and fixed, more appear continually. It's like maybe every other project has more QA going on after things are paved, and it's to the point where it's pretty alarming. And I want to be clear, like I'm not an expert by any means, it's just my own driving experience, but it is different from the other construction zones that I drive through. Is there something weird going on, or can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah.
I'll take it. After we shifted the ramp here, probably early December, there was certainly some difficult challenges in how the existing road, when it shifted over, pavement potholes were more significant there. We have some work to do on it to try to get it corrected, and we're looking at that as soon as we can. Obviously, we attend potholes every single night on the road and maintain the entire 5.5 mile corridor across the I-405 and the 522. So it's a significant overhaul, especially when weather comes in and whatnot. So we're certainly always looking at ways to improve the road, and especially when you get a linear pothole that's 1,000 feet long that starts to separate, and that takes a lot of attention. So you have our guarantee that we'll keep working on it.
Okay, I appreciate that, and I just wanted to make sure it wasn't my imagination, I guess, that it was a little different in that area, so I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Councilmember Curd.
Thanks. Thank you, both of you, for being here and giving the updates. I have a couple of questions. To start, I always ask this question because I used to work in construction field, and I don't want there to be safety issues associated with projects in Bothell, especially. It would be very detrimental to our city for that to happen. So I'm hopeful that there have been no incidents associated with people driving and workers being safe. I hope that it's been safe, that there haven't been any incidents. And I recognize that there's been some enforcement measures that have been sort of trialed and tested in the last year, and I'm just wondering for some feedback on how that's been working and if you've been seeing some improvement in safety.
Yeah, I assume the council member is referring to the work zone speed camera that we implemented on the 522 interchange. Yes, we have been implementing that, and the short answer is yes, we have seen drops on people's speed, and we also recognize that as people are getting used to new interchanging the signalized intersection, we start seeing people to slow down as well. So
that's good. And there haven't been any issues with incidents between cars and workers in the past year?
It is the biggest hazard that we deal with. Just the interface with the public and making sure they know what we're doing, how the lanes are shifting, and our direct worker interface. And honestly, there has been a couple throughout construction. I think what we've seen, though, is certainly a manageable level of incidents as compared to projects we've seen in the past. And I think, as Evelyn noted, on the 522 particularly, we've really had none. So the cameras have certainly been a big help for us there, and appreciate. And I know it's a nuisance for drivers to have to deal with that, but at the end of the day, it's really been helpful to our work zone safety.
That's great. Yeah, nuisance for drivers shouldn't compare to life or death for construction workers. So
appreciate that.
That's great news that it's promising. I remember last year there were some ongoing work at the extended off ramp at Brickyard from northbound 405 lane there. And it was wintertime, it was dark outside, and the lines were only painted, the temporary construction lines were only painted with paint that didn't have the little reflective chips in it. It was construction time. And so I'm hopeful that maybe the policies or their practices have shifted a little bit. So we haven't had a lot of rain, but when it's rainy, it's really hard to see those lines, and especially in an off ramp when there's construction, I think that it's really worthwhile to spend a little extra money to do the reflective paint, just because there have been some close calls, and people have shared with me that there have been some close calls. That was last year. I don't know what your practices are this year, but I thought I'd share that with you too while you were here.
Thank you. Application during the rainy seasons is very difficult. And we've had a couple situations where us applying it during a traffic shift and the rain coming down, and we've had to go back and fix it. Obviously, we do that, and we'll continue to pay attention to that.
Great, thank you. And then my final question is about the signalization. So you mentioned that the purpose of the signalization is to improve traffic flow. Can you talk a little bit more about the impetus behind that? To people who don't have a background in like corridor or don't have the eye for a whole corridor, they see the signals and they say, my commute's taking longer, or this is problematic. WSDOT, I'm assuming, manages the signalization across the 522 corridor. Are they all aligned? Like if someone has to stop at the UW Bothell Cascadia campus off-ramp at Woodinville Drive, do they also have to stop at all the other stoplights? Are they synced up? Can you speak a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I can speak from the finalizing the project. So the goal is to making sure all the signals are in sync, so it can move in a smooth manner. And from a corridor perspective, is that so we will be building the new main line and the direct access ramp. So the idea is also making sure like we can move more people into the corridor and more efficiently. So from an overall perspective, that's supposed to help improve the corridor as a whole. So. Okay.
Yeah, I realize that people are resistant to change anyway, and so when they see a change on their normal commute that they do every day in and out, it's a challenge. But thanks for sharing. I'm really excited to see the work done. I'm excited for the final product, but I know that we've got a while to go, so keep us informed and in touch. Thanks.
Deputy Mayor Alders.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for being here for the presentations tonight. To add to what my colleagues have said, we have heard from members of the community about noise and have appreciated just the responsiveness that we've seen from agencies in terms of like steps that can be made to kind of mitigate that, and also, just help people understand what's going on. I do always empathize with people who are nearby construction because it's loud for the time that it's there. And so I'm wondering if there's anything that like you can speak to the community about like the temporary nature of the construction, how long they can anticipate, projects going beyond, so that we up here also can communicate that to our community too. Thank you.
I want to echo a lot of what my coworkers up here said. Appreciate your reaching out to those folks that are affected and doing everything you can to minimize that. And I have one question aside from that, and you can give me a really brief overview answer. How do you demo a bridge when there's a bridge underneath the bridge?
Well, not easy. And so it's very methodical in how we're going to have to accomplish this. There's a lot of support that has to be taken into the existing structure and protection of it while we knock down the structure. So it sits about 25 feet over the top of the existing 405. So there will be shoring elements that will be underneath the bridge and protection measures that are put on top of it while we demo it. And essentially equipment will bring the bridge down in pieces, very small pieces, as you move across it. Picked up off the bridge, there's pretty significant limitations on weight that we can put onto that structure while we're doing it, which is the reason why the entire 405 has to be shut down while we do it.
Totally.
Under 2 weekends. Public safety is a big thing there, and obviously the worker safety, so we're going to be detouring everybody around us while we do that. Appreciate the consideration from the community to allow for that work to advance. Obviously, it's a big milestone on our project.
Better to have it closed for a couple weekends than something go wrong and have it closed for a long time while we fix it.
Yep.
I appreciate that. I've been watching, like, how are they going to do that? But perfect. Well, thank you all for coming here tonight. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. So again, until the end of the meeting, that will conclude the city manager report.
Perfect. Next up is council committee reports, community reports, and conversations. Councilmember Curd.
Thanks. Last week, there was no city council meeting, but there was an open house for boards and commissions. I think it was okay attendance. There were a couple of folks that came to talk to city staff and board liaisons. I attended, and I would have hoped that there had been more involvement and interest from the community. However, talking with the city clerk, I hear that there were already applications coming in, so that wasn't a bottleneck for the community to show out for board and commissions. But maybe next year we consider doing something associated with another event, like a council meeting or something, maybe in the middle of the day, or I don't know. We should be more creative and just try some new things. That's my report.
I want to jump in because
Jump in.
we just jump in on this one. It's unusual, even though we've been doing it every week for 1,000 years. So the only thing I wanted to add about the open house is it was like right at the beginning of the application period. And I like the idea of having like an event at like a different time of day, maybe later in the period. Because I just, knowing me as a person, probably if I wasn't involved with the city like I am, I would catch the applications later and then be like, oh, I already missed the open house. So that's my only thought, but I'm glad you're able to make it and that there were people there. I attended my first NPRSA meeting of the year last week, I believe, within the last 2 weeks, and am now the vice chair of the board, which is exciting. And we have agreed to see if we can get to the point where we can offer a ballot measure for a potential community center in November of this year. So expect a lot of updates as council members Alcabra and Angulari and I attend those meetings with perhaps some great excitement. So that is my update.
All right, I'll move on to projected agenda discussion. If anybody has something they would like to discuss. All right. In that case, I would love to accept a motion to approve the consent agenda, Councilmember Dodd.
I'd like to move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I've got a motion from Councilmember Dodd and a second from a very quick Councilmember Curd. Would anybody like to speak to the motion? Seeing none, City Clerk.
Thank you. Please say yes or no when I call your name. Councilmember Angulari?
Yes.
Mayor Thompson?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Alders?
Yes.
Councilmember Curd?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Councilmember Alcabra?
Yes.
Passes 6-0 with Councilmember Miles absent and excused.
All right, before we move on to our public hearing, we are going to take a break. It is 7:03. We will break for 17 minutes and come back at 7:20.
Good call. Good call. Thank you.
Welcome back. Next up, we have a public hearing about transportation impact fee and Bothell Municipal Code Title 17 updates. It's Agenda Bill 26013. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. And yes, Council, we're back on a topic that you visited in the fall in October, and tonight is, as you mentioned, a public hearing. We have a brief presentation just to get everybody back up to speed, and for anyone who's following along for this public hearing, following the public hearing, there'll be opportunity to receive comment. And with that, I'm going to turn things over to our team who is here to present. We have Boyd Benson, our Utilities and Development Services Manager. He is joined by Steve Morikawa, our Public Works Deputy Director. I'll turn it over to Boyd.
Thank you, City Manager. Good evening, Council and Mayor. Boyd Benson, Public Works. We have a very brief presentation for you tonight as part of the public hearing. Tonight, we're holding a public hearing to receive feedback from the community about the proposed transportation impact fee update and associated Bothell Municipal Code Title 17 updates. So some key information just to summarize what we've seen up to date. We are implementing a multimodal level of service. This was adopted as part of the 2024 comprehensive plan. Instead of just focusing on vehicle trips, we're now looking at vehicles, pedestrian, bicycle transit. The transportation impact fee approach is being updated to incorporate the multimodal level of service and a new project list from the 2024 comprehensive plan, and that serves as the basis for the actual fee amount. Title 17 updates are required to adopt these changes in level of service and the transportation impact fee values themselves. So some background. The last time we've done a major fee update was in 2019. We did a minor update in 2023 to address mental housing. And since that time, starting in late 2024, we've had a series of meetings with Council and Planning Commission to get policy direction and to share results from our impact fee update. And tonight is we completed a public hearing with Planning Commission with 0 comment on December 17th, and we're completing our public hearing tonight. If all goes as planned, we'll bring this forward in March for City Council consideration of adoption. So some key topics in transportation planning. Briefly touch on level of service policies, concurrency, and impact fees. So the transportation element of the 2024 comprehensive plan established multimodal level of service policies. This provides a 20-year framework to make sure that we get the vehicle, ped, and bicycle improvements required to mitigate growth during that time period. This is kind of a promise of how we will deliver and provide the capacity for growth with respect to our transportation system. Then concurrency is the check. This is to check that make sure that transportation facilities are there at time of development or within 6 years to actually mitigate the impacts from development. And the last is the impact fee. That's the fair share proportion that development pays into the transportation funding program to help deliver these projects. So what is transportation concurrency? You'll hear the word concurrency quite a bit. It's a concept that it's forwarded through the Growth Management Act, but for me, it's just current. Concurrency is with being concurrent. So what this states is that cities under the Growth Management Act and RCW are required to make sure that growth-related impacts are mitigated concurrently with development. And that's pretty much it. So this isn't just transportation, this is public facilities, this is parks, this is fire, this is the rest. And as part of this is we set standards of how we measure concurrency. So some cities have different levels of service standards, and like we said before, it was vehicle trip corridors, and now it's multimodal person trips. How does the program work? We have some capacity in our system right now, so we have some supply. As demand comes in from development, we reduce the amount of available person trips. And as long as there's more supply than demand overall, that means we're concurrent. And that's how little concurrent is B greater than A and A is greater than B. Not the best graphic, but it basically tries to depict that we want to stay ahead of the game with respect to capacity. If we can stay ahead of the game with respect to capacity, we can have continued development. If we can't keep up and mitigate the impacts and provide the capacity in these system-wide improvements, that means we either have to slow down development or increase capacity by building projects. And as we build projects, we therefore add capacity. So it's just kind of a running check as we see development comes in. And that's how we check to make sure that we're meeting concurrency. Title 17 updates. This formally adopts the multimodal level of service. It includes some significant simplifications in our permitting process with respect to how we look at concurrency and how we assign concurrency to developments. We think this will be a way to help with the type of projects we're getting now that are much more complex with respect to density, middle housing, and the rest. We just think it's going to be a way to simplify things. One of the main changes here is that the timelines for concurrency, which currently have their own set of thresholds, will change to reflect the underlying development permit type. So if you have a subdivision, the concurrency verification will run with that permit. If you have a different type of building permit, it'll run with the time extension of that permit. So it should help quite a bit. And then it also includes a transportation impact fee schedule of charges. It's pretty similar to what we have now, but it's now based on per person trips. What we have proposed for adoption based on council feedback is some pretty aggressive affordable housing targets or housing incentives, early learning reductions, and multifamily tax reductions. And the approach there was to provide an increased reduction as you provide increased affordability. So we're looking at a way to help improve and incentivize affordable housing. Growth within rapid transit, within a quarter-mile rapid transit, the growth centers has a 10% reduction. We're trying to focus a lot of that growth within those corridors. And then a change of use exemption. For changes of use that do not include substantial redevelopment of the site, uses the same building, interior remodel, just a change of use. The policy was put forward by council to exempt those from fees, and we can do so. This does not apply to removing a structure and replacing it or major redevelopment. So we think it's a pretty fair way to look at interim uses that aren't significant impacts to the transportation system, while still ensuring that when larger projects come in and essentially replace or substantially alter a facility and develop more trips, we're making sure they mitigate their impacts. Just a little bit more on the impact fee summary. Over on the left, these are the reductions we're looking at. If you're above 80% average medium income for the county, you don't get a reduction. If you're between 50 and 80%, you get a 20% reduction. And if you get down to less than 30% AMI, which is a good portion of our future growth, we hope, we can reduce to 80%. And that's the maximum we can reduce without repaying back fees. Once again, the 10% impact free reduction area, the change use exemption, and then just a little snapshot to kind of compare us to other jurisdictions. City of Bothell is kind of in the middle. The rates aren't increasing significantly. In some cases, they're decreasing with respect to this update. And once you apply these reductions, it helps to incentivize certain growth as well. Next steps, the municipal code, draft municipal code is still under commerce review, and we expect that within the next couple weeks. And then we'll be coming back on March 10th for consideration of adoption by the city council. And we've discussed having the effective date be April 1, just to make things a little cleaner, so folks are prepared for the change. And it's a nice, easy way to set the date. So in summary, we'd like to hold this public hearing to receive comment on the Title 17 updates and the impact fee, proposed impact fees.
And with that, I will open the public hearing. City Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor Thompson. We received one written comment from Donald Warren in support of waiving fees for businesses. That is all I have. However, if there's anybody in the audience who wishes to speak at the public hearing, please step to the podium, state your name for the record, and you will have 3 minutes. If you are in the virtual audience, please use the raise hand function, and I will panel you in after we're done with the folks in the room. Thank you. Go ahead, sir. If you could press the button on the mic.
Matt Tarimba. I own Zulu's Board Game Cafe with my wife over there. This is a game changer. I'm glad that this is happening. thank you. This is a big change. I've known a lot of businesses I've wanted to open. I think the traffic impact fees are a short-term way to generate revenue, but long-term crushes millions of dollars from being generated in the city. So I think this is a step in the right direction. I've read through the packet. I think I understand it. I've had it reviewed. So yeah, I'm massively pro this. So thank you for making this happen. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak to this issue? That is all I have, Mayor Thompson.
Give me 1 second. Thanks for opening cool stuff in Bothell that makes people want to come here and have fun. I appreciate that. Councilmember Dodd has a quick question.
I just wanted to get a gut check, if I can, while we have you two in front of us. So we've heard before from Mr. Zaremba and Mr. Warren, who had a written comment, the changes with the change of use fees in particular. Do you feel that this will satisfy the issues that you've heard from people? I'm assuming you've heard from more than those two people, but I just wanted to. Oh, for our staff, but no, you were very enthusiastic and I think it's good. I just want to make sure, I think our staff has heard from multiple people who have tried to open businesses, and I just want to make sure that you feel like we're on the right path with alleviating that concern.
Don't worry, you were clear.
Stephen Boyd specifically.
I think so. And you have heard some comment from a few community members. This isn't something we see even every year. But it is something that promotes interim use of existing buildings, and it makes good sense. There aren't a lot of cities that do this. Kirkland does this. I think I found one other, but to me, yes, I think it will satisfy the comments we've seen. Once again, if someone adds area on to a building or square footage or the rest, they'll still need to pay their impact fees to mitigate their impacts.
No, and I appreciate that it seems like you guys have brought us a solution that makes people happy and also doesn't make you sad. So I like that very much. Thank you.
Mayor Thompson, can you close the public hearing?
I'm going to close the public hearing. And I had a quick question that I'm trying to remember. It fell out of my mind before I could write it down.
Businesses going into existing spaces. Kirkland.
I had it, and then I closed the public hearing. It'll come to me at an inappropriate time later, and I'll probably follow up with you then. But thank you. Anybody else? I think we're good. All right, next up, we have a study session, 2025 Development Activity Update, and we are going to go down there for a study session. I remembered my question. Hey, Boyd, real quick, I remembered my question. If somebody adds on to a building, let's say there's a 1,000 square foot building and somebody adds 100 square feet to it, do they pay impact fees on the 100 square feet, or does that open them up to everything?
Microphone. Sit down.
That's a very good question, Mayor. If the 1,000 square feet stays the same use and the same everything, they only pay for the additional.
But what if does that open them up to change of use impact fees for the entire thing? So they would only pay it on the extra space that they generate?
Right. If you had 1,000 square feet of office space.
Yeah.
And you added another 100 square feet, you'd only pay for the 100 square feet.
But if you changed it from office space to retail and you added 100 square feet, would you still only pay it on the 100 square feet? Because we eliminated change of use, or we're moving that direction with this policy.
You'd pay additional fee on the added area no matter what.
Yep.
The portion in the building that you're not changing, you would not pay that.
Okay. Perfect.
Does that make sense?
I think that makes sense.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. Welcome back down here for a study session. It's Agenda Bill 26014, Development Activity Update. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. We've been looking forward to this conversation. Certainly, there's been significant changes through the comprehensive plan and other legislative changes over the last few years, really culminating with the 2024 update to the comprehensive plan. As we've started making our way through 2025, one of the conversations that we had as staff was thinking about the importance of having periodic updates for the council to be able to see what the impact of those changes might look like. And so you'll recall in September, you had an update, and then tonight's a bit more of a substantial update as the first year of those changes have now been complete. So to walk you through sort of what has been the result of that work, and also to answer any questions that you might have, we are joined tonight by our community development staff. Jason Greenspan, our Community Development Director, and Christian Getz, our Deputy Director of Community Development. And I will turn things over to Jason to kick things off.
Thank you, Kyle. Tonight we are here to discuss with you and provide you with an update on development activity in the city since the comprehensive plan was updated in December of 2024. As I'm sure you all recall, and I'm sure you have the comp plan on your bedside table and read it every night. The comp plan is a high-level vision for the city. It's a policy document that sets forth policies on housing, land use, open space, climate action for the next 20 years in the city. And it's going to really kind of guide how we're going to look, feel, and operate for the next 20 years. It also sets forth the regulatory framework and basis for our zoning code, our zoning map, and our development regulations. And that's really important because the comp plan doesn't have that regulatory arm, but our codes do. And so we now are a little over a year out from the last time we updated our codes as well. And so we wanted to give you a feel for where we're at, the kind of projects that we're seeing come through the door. And it should be no surprise that we are a growing city. Just in the past 5 years, our population has grown by 7.5%. If you even look back to 2010, we had a population of 33,000. And although we did annex certain areas in King County in 2014, our population, even controlled for that, has been steadily growing for the past 16 years. Our Department of Finance is going to be providing estimates this April, and I would not be surprised if our population breaks 52,000 during this next cycle. What I wanted to provide here on this slide is a sense of why we're planning for at least housing growth in the city. In 2021, House Bill 1220 amended the Growth Management Act and requires all cities to plan for and accommodate housing that is affordable to all economic segments of the population. So if you look at the numbers below the table, 9,550 and 3,232, together that's 12,782 housing units that the city has zoned for to accommodate the market developing over the next 20 years. And this shows how that breaks down by income band. The area median income for your average four-person household in the city of Bothell is roughly $155,000 a year. So just give some context of what would need to be affordable. We know that middle housing types, multifamily housing types, townhomes, single-family detached development, all hits the income brackets of 80% and higher of area median income. Housing that has permanent affordability controls, permanent supportive housing, those are the areas that we know are 75% of our housing target over the next 20 years. And while we have zoned to accommodate that level of housing, we still have to develop partnerships and tools to encourage more permanent affordable housing. With that context, I want to hand it over to Christian, who can give you a flavor for what kind of projects we've been seeing in the city over the past 13 months or so, and permit activity in general, and then we'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thanks, Jason. want to start off with just some kind of where are we in the city. The construction map that you see here on the screen is publicly accessible, interactive. You can pull up any of these dots to see what activity is occurring. Yellow is residential, non-residential, mixed use, and public projects. As you zoom into the map, the public projects represent a street or a park or something else that's there. And then the other private properties will take shape of the parcel that they're on. These are all the residential and non-residential and mixed use projects. These are all projects that have some level of public noticing or a significant scale that we want to make sure are out there. This does not represent every single family home, every addition, alteration, mechanical permit. The map would be just much too busy. Recently completed, wanted to just touch on this. We brought this slide up before, back in September. These are some projects that you might recognize, several school district projects, the Bristol-Myers Jump project, non-residential, as well as the base of school, and then several downtown and citywide residential projects that were completed. I'll touch on those a little bit as far as the timing that it takes for projects to move through the development process. But we'll continue to come back and kind of give you a sense, I think twice a year, where we're going to run through recently completed, let you know kind of what we're seeing and where things are going. To get a sense of what the development services divisions are seeing, these would be not only building, permitting, and land use within community development, but our public works engineering and our fire reviews. These numbers reflect what all of those divisions combined review and make decisions on. You can see the numbers for 2025. We brought these to you in September, and they were moving in the right direction. We are seeing this move in the right direction, pretty steady, slightly below the average over the last 6 years, but there were some significant spikes in there. The one number that you'll see that really did bump up is where I'm going to jump into the focus of tonight on residential, is the pre-application meeting number. So pre-application meetings, they're what we call the leading indicator of development. We had a sense of those running really high back in September, and the numbers that you can see here, we held the most we'd held in over 5 years. The number of residential units proposed was enough to put it in this report. We wanted to make sure that we were identifying what we're seeing. Normally, preliminary meetings, pre-applications, they're just concepts. They're anything from a back of napkin drawing to maybe some preliminary engineering plans. A lot of this that we see is about both the developer and the app and the staff learning what the code or the current code or new codes are throwing at us. So you can see we saw over 1,000 residential units within 2025 proposed. I should point out, this gets back to the last slide that Jason had up. This was at a level that was just above the minimum density. So you may recall back in the work that we did with the comp plan, we established maximums and minimums. The maximums are what if we achieve those, we'll likely achieve the 12,782 units by 2044, sorry. So we're working with projects to make sure that builders, developers know, well, the maximum is there as our goal. We're trying to get there, but the minimum is our backstop. So that number could be significantly higher if they were designing to the maximum. We are seeing primarily townhomes, but increasingly through the work of our really great staff, making sure that if somebody does have a minimum density that they just couldn't quite meet with townhome product, they're starting to blend that, and we have a couple examples within the slides to run through. After the preliminary conversations and the concepts, we start to see actual permits, land use or entitlement permits that come in. These are subdivisions. These could be a conditional use permit. These could be a site plan review, which has a a lot of effort that's gone into it. So these are real residential units that we're seeing that are coming in, and 2025 saw a great jump, over 500 that were proposed, and varying housing types, which you saw within the development report that we attached to this, from 8-story residential to cottage or middle housing product types. I will say, so far this year, in just the first 33 days, we're at 600 residential units proposed for land use applications. A couple large projects account for that. So we're moving in the right direction. We're moving in the direction that we think. We don't want to scare anything away, but cautiously optimistic. The 2020 spike there that you do see, I want to point out, this gets back to the development cycle. That spike relates to the Seattle Times Avalon project and the Alexan Block D. Both came in 2020. And that kind of shows it took several years for that to work its way through, wrapping up Alexan in 2024, and Avalon 2023, 2024. With maybe 400 of the Avalon residential units actually not being constructed. That portion of the site is still sitting, waiting to be developed. So, all right, now into the projects. So, pulled together some of the ones from the packet, mainly those residential ones. We are not seeing much commercial at this point. And just want to walk through some of these. So the first one is the Blueprint Capital Cottages. This is up on 100th Avenue. It fronts 100th on the west, 101st Place on the east, so it's got two frontages. It was 2 single-family homes, and they're proposing a cottage project, installing frontage improvements, as you can see there on the left of the image. And they're doing 6 of them with a shared tract for stormwater and open space on that. The next one is the Signature on Main. This came in just a few weeks ago, and it is replacing the Bothell Mall site. So I know everyone's excited to see progress move forward. Something come in there. 22 residential units with ground floor commercial fronting Main Street, the retail space fronting Main Street. And parking below. They will be improving the alleyway and handling circulation back there. And they're proposing just at the maximum building height. One of the largest project that we've seen is going to be the tallest building in Bothell at 8 stories. This is over on 120th Street at the Dandy Dog site. Not sure where the Dandy Dog is going to go, but we'll do our best and work with economic development to make sure they find a good landing space. Maybe over at the junction, we'll see. So this is across from Home Depot. They are utilizing the recently passed height bonus from December, so they'll be including affordable housing within this project to gain that additional height. So that voluntary incentive is what they're using. Another project just up the hill here in Maywood is the Lilykirk Townhomes. This is a underdeveloped site with a single home. It's a historic home. The project is retaining the home, incorporating it into the design. They are maintaining setbacks from the critical areas to the west. It's 79 townhomes, just under the maximum density. This is in the RM1, so it's got a 25 unit residential units per acre max. Installing a through road, so they're connecting to the street to the north, and then installing frontage improvements along 100th. A couple other ones. This one also in Maywood. This is the site. Maybe my first week here, where I think fire department was doing some practice work on the 2 homes that were there. This is an island surrounded completely by right-of-way, just up the hill here. This is a project that is incorporating 2 different product types. They're blending, so they've got in order to meet their minimum density in the RM4 zone, they are proposing a 12-unit apartment building. That's up in the northeast corner, so the top right, and then nine townhomes on the site. So a single entrance, internal drive and parking, and then all the perimeters, their front doors. And then I believe this might be the last one, Bothell Landing. This is just across the street from the Park and Ride right here in downtown. This has sat vacant for quite a while. It's been in for permit review for quite some time, but they finally submitted for their building permits. So 32 townhomes along the Sammamish River. It was all ready to go, just waiting on the construction permit. So those are in, and we'll see what happens there. One of the things we also included within the packet was a discussion around the right-of-way improvements, the frontage improvements that take place with private development as a byproduct. And one of the more visible, or probably one of the only visible items, aside from street widening, is bike lanes. Nobody knows what's going on underground, but bike lane expansion. So with the projects that we have seen, a significant amount of work has taken place, with just under a mile completed in 2025 and up to 2 miles expected to be completed by the end of 28 through these projects. A few examples here on the, where are we on? 30 degrees, so this is on the left side of the screen. Both images are the two sections there. That is up by Safeway, 830 feet on the south side and 450 feet on the north side. With that, 102 multifamily townhome product. On the right side of the screen, the Good and Shore Plat installed 200 feet on the west side of the right-of-way, and that was an eight dwelling unit product. And then the last image here that we have, on the right, Husky Village at the university, 850 feet with that dorm project. The upper left, Greenleaf Grove, or the Bevel project over just in the North Creek area, installing, 1,300 feet on the east side of the right-of-way for those 47 homes. And then on the lower left, an example of the city of Kirkland's bike lane at 100th, just at our south border. And an interesting fact, interesting to me, I did the permitting on this way back in 2017, doing the land use review, reflecting the amount of time really just that it took for land use permitting through capital projects for all of that right of way to be built out, and kind of what you're seeing there.
So did it for Kirkland?
For Kirkland, yes. So, just the timing that some of these projects take to get all of that work installed. So we brought forward these questions. They were in the packet, really just looking to make sure what we included in the packet materials, what we went over tonight, is that what you were expecting to see? For staff, it's really exciting to see movement forward or change in codes. It's not the same old design year after year. Seeing the work come in, as hard as it may be to answer questions with new code, it's interesting, and it keeps it exciting day to day. So would love to get any council discussion on these items and answer any other questions.
I was really excited to see the 101st Avenue multifamily respond to the minimum densities, because it looks like they could have fit 2 more townhomes in there, and instead we get 12 units. And that's 10 more units that are homes for people that we wouldn't have had, and that makes me very happy to see. I did have a quick question that I wrote down somewhere. How much of the struggles getting beyond the minimum density have to do with the lack of condo liability reform in the state? And just the fact that people don't want to build something that occupies the same vertical space as another unit?
It's been a topic that's come up. I don't know if it's an impediment. We can look further into that and ask more direct questions of those that might be running into the, maybe I don't want to build a stacked product as a condo.
More out of curiosity, like I don't think it needs to be put it on a form or anything, but I was just curious if that had come up in conversation. One other question on the Dandy Dog site, how did that originally get developed with so much parking? Because we're basically just this is going to get built in a parking lot. There's going to be 300 and some odd new homes, and there's still going to be plenty of parking for the businesses there. Was that our minimums at the time, or did they go beyond that?
I do believe it was planned to develop out that side of the parking lot originally with additional buildings.
Okay.
That just were never completed.
Got it. Cool. Thank you.
Hello, I have a microphone. For the Dandy Dog site, that's gonna haunt the new building. Is there gonna be any retail there or just 8 stories of residential?
It's all residential. There are amenity spaces on the ground floor. The retail building that's currently to the north remains a separate parcel.
Okay, I don't know, I have no feelings either way, I was just curious if it was mixed use.
It's pinched between the power easement and the right of way that we do have residential fronting 120th, so it's not just residential sitting on top of a parking garage. It's wrapped with residential units on the ground floor that kind of come around the side. So yes, you would see, I suppose, parking garage from the back, but they've done a really nice design to
Well, and I
mask
like that there's more, I don't want to say, the word is not protected, but there's crosswalks with lights to cross there, which is nice because what we see a lot is highway-sized roads that are getting high-density residential that don't have ways to cross close to home. So I like that it's going where we have more safe crossing, which is exciting. I'm still digesting, but to answer your question, it's great to see that more housing is being built. I guess, okay, I did have one question that I wrote down now that my mic is on. Do you have a statistic on the number on average of pre-applications that result in a permit and something being built?
I think I was asked back in September, and I think my response would still be around the same. It's about 90%. I mean, the lots that are coming in for redevelopment, it's more just a matter of time. How quickly will that lot redevelop? So it's most likely going to result in redevelopment at some point. With the Bothell Mall site, they came in for a pre-application meeting several years ago after the fire. They've had another one and maybe 2 others since then. But eventually, it's coming in for a permit. So I don't want to say 100%, but it's a really high. It's a really high number. Those that sort of shy away are probably the smaller projects that just it doesn't pencil out at the time, and they might come back in years to come. But.
Okay, thank you.
I have exclamation points in my notes. It is very exciting to see an increase of housing, the variety of housing types. That was really one of the things I think that council set out to do. It was recognize that not every person in our community can live in a townhome or a single family home, and we needed more variety. And so it's really great to see that you are reporting that it's happening. That got 3 exclamation points. And really great to also hear that some of the projects, and we were just talking about it on 120th, are taking the voluntary incentive for affordable housing. Also great to hear. That was work that 3 of us did on the Planning Commission. My one question I had was on the Bothell Landing townhomes. I know that that's right up against the river, and I'm wondering what kind of buffers is that project subject to?
It's subject to the shoreline master program standards. Off the top of my head, I don't know what they are, but I do know an initial review. The staff have recognized that they are seeming to comply with what was already approved. It already went through land use permitting, so it went through the shoreline substantial development permit process, and this building permit that just came in last month or 2 months ago is just completing the work. So it's more of a matter to make sure, do those buildings land on the site plan as the previous land use decision approved, and I believe they do. So it is going to comply with all those shoreline requirements for setbacks, buffers, plantings, and things.
Oh, I certainly believe that like, to be built, it has to comply. I guess I'm curious, and I understand that you wouldn't have the standards off the top of your head, but, I'm looking at the site plan and well, maybe it does. I think if you look very closely, it says something setback, and it says it on there, but it's hard to see.
Maybe in the future, not like right now, you could send us a quick email of like how being on the river impacted that project so we can help understand the regulations in action.
Yeah, can definitely follow up with that.
I like that suggestion. Thank you. And also, see, zooming in has helped. There's also 4,800 square feet of public open space along the back of that project, and so I hadn't seen that in the smaller form. That's exciting to hear too. Thank you for the report on the bike lane completion. I think that's kind of exactly what the type of thing that we're hoping to see in this. I didn't see it specifically like spelled out how many affordable units are estimated in this. It might be good for us to see in the future, that metric being reported. But that's, well, okay. And then your question on, are there any housing types you aren't seeing that were expected? I guess I would just say that the cottage project looks an awful lot like townhomes to me. And so I guess I still haven't seen like a true starter home project where like it's, I was an 80s kid. Like, where are the 80s houses that like those are 40s houses. Young 40s houses, right? Exactly. The ones that, are meant to be built onto that, I'm still, and it's not nostalgia, it's really trying to give people a chance to buy into something that that can grow with them, like we've seen over the course of hundreds of years or 100 years of development, and we've interrupted that growth pattern to where people can't start with a 2-bedroom house on a small lot and then add bedrooms or stories to it. And so I'd very much like to see starter homes be an option, and it's got to pencil out, but I'd love for that to happen in the future and for our code to support that kind of development. Thanks.
I thought of one more question, and no one else beat me to it. Do we know through the permitting process which of these are ownable units versus for rent?
I know that the 120th project will be apartments for rent. That will be the only one with affordable units, so that they'll have 32 deed restricted units for apartments. It'll be the 60% AMI band. So that'd be the only project that we have currently in review that would have affordable deed restrictions on units. But we can provide a greater breakdown as far as for rent or for own in the future.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great. And I don't mind an email follow-up, because I don't know how you would predict all the questions we have, but that's just a curious metric. And I also want to acknowledge we're still supporting bills right now to help with condo liability reform. So I realize it's a tough environment for some things, but cool, thank you.
I echo the appreciation for all these slides. I think this is going to be an exciting thing to track biannually and see how things change. It's good for us to hear the effects of our policy considerations too, even though we understand that it takes some time for it to come to fruition. So I really appreciate the graphs. The graphs on page 9 and 10, or not page, but slides 9 and 10 show pre-application proposed residential units and proposed residential units for land use applications. I think that those are good graphs, but what I'm wondering about is sort of like measuring how many units of middle housing we're getting. And so it would be interesting to see out of this bar, how many of those units were middle housing type, just to see if there's something that we can, if there are trends that we can pull out over time. Obviously, it's not going to be a huge component of this graph, of this chart for 2025, but over time, I would like to see more and more adoption of middle housing types. And so that'd be something that I'd want to see kind of split out in the data. The other thing that's not shown here is the development practitioner. So you insinuated that larger development projects like Avalon or the projects at this former Seattle Times site comprise a large number of like a big bar there, and I'm wondering how many different sort of developers, or are we seeing a lot of people that are like, this is their property and they're just coming to us, or is it a lot of like the people who are in the DSAG group or who are kind of seasoned and experienced with developers that have done work in the city before, learn about the code and changes. So I'm wondering, maybe it's more intuition or just your experience communicating with these pre-applications. Are we seeing the educational components be more for sort of residents who are looking to change something up, or is it? And that the reason why I ask this is because that would necessitate us putting together some educational products, some one-pagers, things that are showing off what different zoning categories can but if it's just the DSAG group that's coming in with a majority of these units, then I'm a lot less worried about sort of messaging to the community what the impacts of the changes are, and so that they have a better idea of what they can do on their property. That's a long-winded way of saying, is this bar a lot of different people, or is it 5?
I'd say it's a lot of different people, but they are those that are within what I would say are the DSAG group. So the single-family homeowner who might want to add on or maybe add an ADU, we do get those questions. They are very small in number, and staff do a great job to provide the information, which I wouldn't know where to begin. I'd have to go talk to an architect. We do offer pre-application meetings that are intended to be for single-family homeowners, so non-developer related. We shifted that out with the fees and made it much, much less to make sure we're not creating a barrier to really get the detailed information to that owner, so they can come armed with knowledge of how do I redevelop, how do I add an ADU. We're continuing to evolve how we provide information through educational materials to make sure we can do that. But we can break that down, and there are some reporting metrics that we have to include to Commerce that reflect what types of middle housing. So we are gathering that data, and we can make sure in the future we do parse that out within this type of a report.
Okay, that's helpful context. I appreciate it. The last thing that I wanted to highlight was, maybe it's my bias of having gone through the comp plan, but on slide 5, showing the plan for and accommodate, target units for each level of affordability. I want to see those units get built. And to knowing how far along we are over the next 20 years is going to be a helpful metric for me to gauge whether the comp plan was effective or not, or if things need to be tweaked along the way. And so I would like to see that slide be updated with progress indicators over time. Obviously, this is the first big update, but setting you up for knowing how I'll be evaluating, whether we're achieving really our goals of providing or planning for and accommodating, but how does it work out in real life is an interesting concept. And I know that it's hard to go back in time and figure out, comp plans of 2010 and 2000 or whatever, Vision 2020, did we realize that at the time? And some of the findings that, back of the envelope calculations of whether 2020 visions across the sound were realized from PSRC show interesting results. And so I'd like to be in the know going forward how our Imagine Bothell proportions are working out. So that's something that I'll be looking for in the future.
Thank you very much. It's exciting to see variety of homes being approved. I'm assuming we are taking care of safety and parking and all as per the process. I have some finance background. The way I've been hearing the news and all, I think my gut feeling is even though we are approving a lot of homes, builders, the pricing and all, there is more inventory coming up. And with the tech layoffs also, a lot of tech layoffs are happening. I have a feeling it might slow down. Builders may not build even though they are getting approvals from us. Just a curiosity, do you guys see anything like that, or is it just my feeling?
We're not seeing any permits lapse, I guess would be the closest thing to say, if it does lapse because of inactivity, we do set time limits for them. But we're as much paying attention to that as anyone, just to make sure, we can plan ahead.
Sure. And next, if we go back to the slide 8, I think probably slide 8, which has the metrics. Do we have any metrics? Yeah. So do we have any metrics, number of units that were approved versus built? Like it could be a 1,000 square feet apartment versus a 5,000 square feet single family home. Do we have any metrics year by year? How many units we approved versus built every year?
We do report those out to the Office of Financial Management every April. So those, we did include those within the packet material, the attachment, trying to break down and make it clear that they were April to April numbers. So we do look at total number. We don't break it down by size.
Yeah, size is not required.
But those that are actually constructed, yes, we do have that data.
Would it be possible to share?
Yeah,
with
I can share that with you.
Thank you. Yep. That's all. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'll mention that Office of Financial Management is currently finalizing their survey for all cities as they collect data on the Housing Accountability Act, as well as doing their population projections. So we'll be assembling that data over the next 2 months or so. I think the next time we come back to you, we can give you more granular information.
Great. Thank you very much.
I want to chime in real quick just on, I think it was great to raise the question too of like in future reports, what do you want to hear? So thank you all for engaging with some of the ideas. So I mean, I'm hearing around, again, we may not be able to predict the number of pre-applications that result in a permit, but we can do our best to track that of showing what we did receive and what are we seeing, knowing again that it sometimes takes some time. Again, showing the production of affordable units. I want to circle back to that in a second. Own versus rent, I think, gets to a similar inquiry on that. Again, to the extent that we can know that, I think that's an interesting thing to look at, and that might be even a different type of reporting. How many units with middle housing types? Again, we can work on that. The type of developer or a unique number of developers, and then the metrics we just discussed that is in the report, we can make those highlighted a little bit more, and maybe that talks to about the timing of these reports, knowing if those are due in April. That might be something that you'd expect to see when we come in the fall, like in a written report. One of the things I just was reflecting on, and Councilmember Curd, you mentioned this in terms of the housing affordability and showing the progress. And again, so we've heard that we can a lot of number of units, but I think it was 32 units at deed restricted 60% AMI. So we know too that there's we have a group that's working on 200 units, and so we'll start seeing some come in. But I think it's a good thing to keep in mind is that again, as we're looking at the progress of this. And I think if Councilmember Alcabra was with us right now, he would probably be bringing this up too. It comes up frequently in my check-ins with him as what are the things that we have to do to create that reality as well. And so being watchful to that. And then, we're always going to hear from people of wanting different changes to the code to make building more possible and that sort of a thing. And the public hearing we heard tonight was an example of like being able to react to that or respond to that. And I think that, it's just something to keep in mind as you get those types of requests to be thinking about what are those opportunities as well of thinking through affordability, what produces affordability. So we'll keep that in mind as well. And I know we're working on housing action plan, but just there will always be people asking you for things. And if one of the things we need to ask in return is for affordable units, it's just a good number to keep front and center. And I know it's something that we keep looking at as well.
I had a quick question. Are you guys seeing any consistent barriers that would be possible suggestions for policy change that are keeping people from developing to our maximum densities?
I mean, there's nothing that immediately comes to mind. Again, this is our first year, and the maximum and the minimum density in particular was really a new concept for us. And we just didn't know. We didn't have a barometer for how many projects we would get in, how we could work with property owners to get to those minimums. So I would tell you that thus far we haven't seen those minimum densities as a barrier. Good. That was to be seen a year ago, and we are seeing projects come in that meet that. I don't know if there's anything that occurs to you in terms of reform. There's always going to be code changes that we can make, given we have to react and know and be flexible as time moves on.
Well, in there's always going to be edge cases, but just if you're not hearing something consistent, like, every fourth pre-app meeting, like this particular thing is a barrier, that's good. But if you do find those things, please let us know.
Yeah, and I think we hear about the work we're already starting to do, working on MFTE updates, other incentives to, that'll be coming back your way. So we're already working on kind of expanding the tools in the toolbox and making it, removing any potential barriers that might be there, especially when it comes to achieving more affordable units.
Awesome. So I'm excited to change the MFTE.
I thought of one kind of set of things that might help, not just one thing. And you can tell me this is out of your area, but the development is kind of one part of it. I think some of the other stats I've seen in the past is stuff like the vacancy rate for rentals or, and I am not a real estate agent, so please work with someone who knows what they're talking about when you come up with these stats, but things like how long are houses sitting on the market, whether, and like kind of like stats on like the health of the housing market once you're in it. And that might be helpful to have a slide about that kind of thing when we come in for like a yearly review, just so we can see not only what's being built, but just like, how is it going with housing? Because I think the 7 of us aren't like moving every year. So it's like we hear things from different people, but it'd be good to get kind of a housing market report as part of this, just to see, especially if we can build year over year, how that's changed since like the last time we did a year review. I feel like that might help us get a grounding in the whole picture.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's what also I was thinking. Both rental market, it's slowing down other cities too. My concern was if how the pricing is also a little bit neutral right now. The housing prices cooling down in Bothell or other cities. Let's say we approve hundreds of units, and if builder is not able to build, halfway through they realize, okay, I'm not able to sell my townhomes, I'm not going to be able to build. What do we do usually? Do we have to make them complete what we approved? Let's say we approved 100 townhomes, and they realize they're not able to sell it, and they stopped remaining development. So that is okay for the builder. I have seen during the last recession. So just wanted to comment, if something happens, we don't want lots with half done and half not done, and they are not able to sell. Let's say if the market is really not good.
Yeah, and we'd lean into the approval and the duration of a valid permit or a underlying valid land use permit. If there's a time limitation on all of those. And it made me think about something very dramatic, which I don't think is going to, hopefully, knock on wood's not happening. But there were extensions after the recession in 2008 that were, went statewide, allowing for additional time for all the work that goes into a land use decision to lay out a plat or a large building. If it wasn't going to work at that time, let's not, create an impediment for it to happen in a few years when it would be the same building. So, yeah.
Sorry. This is a really great conversation because it reminded me of Greg Colburn's book, Homelessness is a Housing Problem. They use a specific ratio of units to get at demand. And I forget the name of the ratio at this point. But it would be really useful because what we see is that there are not available units to meet the demand in our community. And the places in the country that have more available units per need, they have lower homelessness. And so I think it might be really interesting to use some of our data to develop that ratio so we kind of know what is we have growth targets, obviously, but can we know for Bothell what the demand is up against the available units?
I think we can pick certain data points that we would be able to track, perhaps year to year, if not every 3 years based on ACS data. That would be something that's reasonable for us to track, that would be good indicators of that, whether it's vacancy rates, tenancy, tenure type, things like that. But I'd also want to couch it in the context of our regional economy, so we're not just looking at Bothell in a vacuum, just knowing how that compares to our counties and some of our other comparable cities. So I think if we were to pick a few metrics, we could reasonably track that and report it to give context for this conversation.
Yes. Vacancy rates was definitely part of that, and thank you for the context. I appreciate it.
I appreciate that because I feel like I gave you a sous vide steak and then you finished it, so that was really helpful. Yeah. With the building permit extension that you mentioned, so as a millennial, I feel like I've dealt with a lot of once in a generation things. And can you give me some context on have we seen that before 2008? Was that a one-time thing? How often does that happen in the course of human events and building houses?
I believe it's pretty rare.
Okay.
A building permit, you've got 2 years, you have 18 months to get it issued, you've got 2 years to build it. There are extensions that are out there. So right there, you're looking at 3.5 years from the day you apply to the day it's hopefully completed. Before that, there was probably land use permitting that took anywhere from, 6 months to a year, if not more. Those have a longer lifespan. generally 5 years, depending on the type. So the controls are already built into the permitting process, trying to not create any barriers. And we allow for certain permit types to be extended with reason. You're close to being done. There are ways to show progress. So.
Okay, cool. I didn't think it was that common, but I was like, honestly, I've lost clarity on how common crazy things are.
Okay, I just want to remind City Council that the full report starts on page 59 and goes through page 81. So there's much more featured in there than what we're able to get to tonight, and happy to answer any questions about what's in that attachment as well. And that's really a full flavor of what came in 2025, at least the larger signature projects. And I really appreciate Christian's work on this and my staff's work putting that all together. We had quite a volume of things coming in, and to highlight the things that really showed change is what we really wanted to focus on.
And I just wanted to say thank you guys for everything that you've done to help us cause the change we're seeing right now. Like, your department has done great work and you bring us great recommendations, and it's a pleasure, and we're seeing the results. So thank you. I like results. Results are fun. All right. Next up, city manager report continued.
Absolutely, and thank you. And I did hear from our state lobbyist that she is online. So I think Laura, we'll do a quick promotion. Hold on a second.
Hello.
Welcome, Shelley.
Hello. Ever since you told me that my face appears massive, I've been self-conscious. So,
The good news, we currently have 4 screens up, so you're only a quarter of the size that you could be. So coming at the end was probably a good break. Thank you, Shelley. So we are joined tonight by Shelley Helder, our state lobbyist, for a monthly report. I usually steal some of her best lines, so I'm going to leave it at that. And Shelley, turn it over to you.
great. Well, thank you very much. Good to be with you this evening. Where did my notes go? They're hiding somewhere behind a screen. Let me pull them up. So the legislative session is underway. Today's day 23 of the 60-day session. Tomorrow is the first cutoff. That's when bills have to pass out of the policy committees in order to remain under consideration. After tomorrow's cutoff, the universe of bills will shrink from thousands of bills to hundreds of bills, which is a welcome relief for me. It's a much more manageable figure. The next cutoff will be Monday, this coming Monday, February 9th. So it's a really quick turnaround until the next cutoff. The rest of this week and through the weekend, the fiscal committees are going to be meeting to hold public hearings and vote on bills. The bills that have impact to the state, either through raising taxes or expenditures, they must go through a fiscal committee. So that's what they'll be focused on over the next few days. In the midst of considering changes to the law, the budget writers are developing the supplemental operating, capital, and transportation budgets. And that's the primary purpose of this short session, is to adjust the budgets for the remaining portion of the biennium. The state revenue forecast is scheduled to be released February 16th. So that's when we'll get updated figures of what the projected revenue is. And then we would expect to see the budget proposals roll out shortly after that. The big kind of elephant in the room is that the state operating budget has to address a roughly $2 billion deficit in the current biennium. And it's expected that this gap is going to be addressed primarily through budget cuts or changes to existing taxes. And that's because it takes time to implement any type of new tax. So any new tax would, because of the implementation time, would not generate enough revenue to address the shortfall for this biennium. You may have been hearing in the news, though, that there are a lot of conversations about new tax proposals. Just earlier today, Democrats unveiled a proposal to establish a 9.9% income tax on individuals who earn more than $1 million a year. And if that passes the legislature, the tax would not generate revenue until 2029. So I guess I offer that as an example of taxes are being considered, but not to address the current budget shortfall. I'll also just mention that this bill, the income tax on individuals earning over $1 million, I've introduced 5% of whatever amount is generated would be dedicated to the County Public Defense Fund. And I'm highlighting that because public defense is obviously something that both counties and cities have been talking about. So it's I think, nice to have a little bit of a nod, recognition that there is a need for more funding. I'm not going to take it personally that there's not money specified for cities, but I digress. So each week during the legislative session, I send weekly updates, and those updates include kind of our progress on the city's legislative priorities. So this evening, I don't plan to review in detail what the priorities are, but I do want to highlight just a few bills that we've been working on that are moving through the process. So the first bill is Senate Bill 6026. This is legislation that's been requested by the governor, and it would create, or the intent is to create capacity for residential development. And it would be residential development in currently zoned commercial or mixed use areas in cities that have a population of greater than 30,000. The way the bill does this is it prohibits cities from excluding residential use in areas that are zoned as commercial or mixed use. And then there's carve outs for historic places or business improvement areas. The bill also removes the ability for cities to require ground floor commercial or retail, except in certain areas like transit station area, or up to 20% of its zoned area outside of that station area. So the policy is still very much in development. The proponents of the bill, kind of the builders, realtors, business community, they're saying that the ground floor retail requirements are preventing residential construction because sometimes a project can't pencil if the market doesn't need the commercial space on that ground floor. And so allowing residential construction in that commercial zone would create more capacity. And that's a really simplified summary of the argument for the bill. Mayor Thompson testified in opposition to the House version of the bill when it had a public hearing last week. And really we're challenged with the bill because it eliminates the local authority to put or to require the ground floor retail, and could essentially undo a lot of the work that you have all done over the last several years in being really strategic and thoughtful in planning for job targets and housing targets and creating walkable urban areas as opposed to like residential islands and commercial islands where people have to drive in order to meet their basic needs. So the Senate bill has a public hearing this Thursday in the Ways and Means Committee. I do expect this bill to continue to advance. It has a lot of momentum behind it, and Again, we are in a housing crisis, and this bill is one that the governor has identified as a priority in order to create more capacity for residential development. So that's one bill. I'm going to brief the next bill before I pause and answer any questions or allow for any comments. The next bill I want to highlight is House Bill 2517. This was requested by Sound Transit to help them expedite the permitting process with local governments, with the goal of reducing costs for the build out of light rail and bus rapid transit. As the bill was introduced, it would have allowed Sound Transit to apply for a permit for land that they don't yet own, but they're in the process of acquiring through eminent domain. Councilmember Dodd testified during the public hearing and requested an amendment that would require Sound Transit to first obtain permission from the property owner before applying for the permit. Earlier today, the bill was amended and voted out of the committee. The amendment says that Sound Transit must provide proof of notification to the property owner before applying for a permit, and that a local government cannot issue the permit until Sound Transit has also provided written permission from the property owner. So it allows Sound Transit to begin the process, but the process can't be complete until there's confirmation from the owner. The bill does have a pretty hefty fiscal note for it being a year where there's no money. So it has a little bit of an uphill battle. But it was encouraging to see that the committee made some changes given the feedback that we provided. There are dozens of other bills that are making their way through the process, and city staff have been really great in providing a review and determining what those impacts, if any impacts there are to Bothell. And then we've been weighing in accordingly, not always through public testimony, sometimes just with legislators or through the Association of Washington Cities. So I am going to stop there and see if there are any questions about either of the two bills that I mentioned, or anything that you've seen in the weekly reports, or I guess any questions in general.
I'm going to jump in. I think we're treating it like a study session, even though the deputy mayor was like, it's not a study session technically. So hi, Shelley. I'm looking the wrong way because your face is behind
That's
me.
okay.
So for SB 6026, the first bill you talked about, I'm really concerned that it takes away a lot of our ability to make communities walkable by requiring ground floor retail and services where people are going to live, as you said. Has there been any activation of like environmental and climate groups? Because this feels like a weird backwards move compared to the climate forward bills we've seen in recent sessions. And I am puzzled by that move. So I'm wondering if there are any other groups that are like, whoa, why are we moving backwards?
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess the direct answer is there's no one's opposed to the bill except cities. I will say FutureWise has weighed in as other when there have been public hearings and has noted that concern. But I guess there's the only stakeholder that's been just really concerned about the unintended consequence of this policy has been cities.
Has the Association of Washington Cities come out against it? Like, are we getting their, because
yes,
they do seem to
very
have an
much
impact.
Concerned with the proposal as well. Yeah, I will say there are some cities that are okay with the bill, and as we've seen in recent years, there is not unanimity amongst the city family when it comes to land use and planning policies, and so we're seeing a division of where cities are falling on this. So some are supporting, some are neutral, and some are very concerned.
Thank you. I have like 10,000 questions, but I'll try to work through them before I hit you up with more on that.
Shelley, thanks for coming. I also have questions on 6026, namely about our growth center of Canyon Park. And I'm wondering if there's been any collaboration or discussion among the other more commercially oriented growth centers in the PSRC region to maybe put a finer point on 6026 with the appropriate committees. Have you been hearing things from the other? I think it's Bremerton. There's a commercial area over there, a growth center. And then I think there's one, is it in Arlington? I don't know the map off the top of my head, but there are others like us.
Yeah. So I think, yes, there is kind of a coalition of cities that are trying to shape the policy in a way that doesn't have unintended consequences. I have actually specifically requested an amendment to allow for a carve out for regional growth centers. When I floated that idea initially, one of the pushbacks was, well, regional growth centers is not defined in statute and it's not applicable outside the PSRC region. And so it's not to say it can't be used, it just would then require another carve out for areas outside PSRC. So we are kind of working through the language to try to create that carve out within the framework of the RCW.
Got it. Thank you. Yeah, I think a carve out for, selfishly, a carve out for growth centers would solve all of our problems, because downtown Bothell, where we want to see ground floor retail requirements in some areas, obviously we're careful about it, but not all cities are. We trust ourselves. Our downtown would be a potential candidate for a regional growth center, and then also Canyon Park. And those are really the only areas of the city where we must have ground floor commercial at least. So I think if you can get headway on that, please keep us in the loop and updated. And if it would be helpful for us to reach out to some other growth center cities to band together and, join up on testimony, let us know if that'd be helpful, because we have some contacts and it might be a good approach.
I also wonder, and I feel like I'm coming a little bit from behind on this one, but it feels like a lot of our future planning has been around creating complete neighborhoods, and that's why we've passed a lot of our land use and zoning regulations. And it feels like this could really stymie them, and like I said, go backwards on climate protection planning. I guess I don't want to just spout off random ideas about like fears and concerns, but like please keep us in the loop on ways that we can really show why this is not just something we don't like, but something that is actively harmful to the way that we've just done our comprehensive plan. Like it feels very backwards, and it's not like we're trying to stay a single family residential city and we're fighting against new regulations. We're trying to be a well thought out city, because we've had a lot of poorly thought out growth, and this feels like a way to make that less possible. So Thank you.
Yeah, I will say the next opportunity to weigh in on the bill is this Thursday at the Ways and Means Committee. And I would say that the strategy, for lack of a better word, amongst the cities who are concerned about it is to have as many elected officials that are willing to testify to sign up and say what their concerns are. The public hearing on Thursday is a fiscal committee, so it's the Ways and Means Committee. The hearing starts at 1:30, and there's no guaranteed end time. So it's nice because there's remote testimony is an option, but there is a kind of unknown time commitment in terms of when a remote testifier would be called.
Luckily, all of my classes are asynchronous, so how maybe you and Kyle can work on whoever can testify can go sit and wait and do that. But I hope, can we have more than one person if more than one person is available?
We could, yeah.
Okay, so city manager, can you help us make a showing? strong showing.
Absolutely. Wow. We'll sync up.
Thank you.
I'll be in Olympia on Thursday all day, and that is a time when I am available. So if it's in person, could be more impactful, I am available.
That's great.
As much as I'm sure you would like to stay up later and take our questions during session, I think we're probably about done, but thank you. I don't know why I'm turning around and looking at you. But thank you so much for coming out here, for all the work you do and giving us an update. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Yep. Nice to see you all. Good evening.
Night.
You should say that in the mic, Mayor.
Recording stopped.
And with that, we're adjourned.